Another day at the funny farm. Gonna get, I don't know, maybe one or two of these out today. Then all I gotta do is pack my stuff and head for the logging road. And, I'm gone. I'm getting cut. I mean, I love sharing all these emails. I love it. It's just gotta be done. But I can't stand doing it from home. It's starting to get to me. I need the mountains so bad. I'm starting to feel a little squirrely. It's a weird transition to be able to go into those mountains at any given time, any day, and then moving. And now you can't. It's like, oh God, what have I done? But anyway, I can't complain. Otherwise it'd be a sniveler, right? But hopefully I can get some time to do it on the weekend. Not even the weekend, just these next days. I got to get back into using the GoPro in the middle of nowhere and showing you guys more of the real world, right? I have an old friend coming out for 2 days fishing. Should be interesting. Be good to get caught up and hear all the goop. A friend of mine never left the island. He used to hang out quite a bit. Should be good. And then after that, I think Sarah's replying to all of the charter inquiries today. There's a pile of them. For anybody who is inquiring about fishing, the biggest thing is getting your accommodation at Banfield. That's not that easy sometimes. Now listen, enough of the BS. Hold on a minute. Looks like somebody wiped their ass with my glasses, for crying out loud. Pretty quiet here without that rooster, isn't it? I don't miss him at all. The kids were upset. Sarah was upset about him, but not me. See you later. All right, let's get this heard. Don't know what I'm about to read. We're going to find out together, right? Take from what you will or leave it. Steve, I grew up in southern Georgia in the woods and swamps, hunting and hanging daily. Fast forward 20 years, I'm on my lease hunting property near Whitmire, South Carolina. I found it strange that the old guys in the club would always never ever hunt here alone. These woods are different. I laughed to myself. I normally carry a 30-06. Here we go. Getting late, 20 minutes maybe before dark. I'm watching some small pines sitting over a road. In the tall pines, maybe 20 from in. I'm in my climber, maybe 10 feet or so. Love the woods, hate heights. Woods are loud. Then quiet. Okay, I thought, boy has shown up. Just hoping for a big buck. Next thing I hear someone walking towards me in the small pines, then just stops. It's getting really dark. I normally don't need a light. Gravel road just up the hill. Well, I start hearing deep groans where the walking steps stopped. I'm like, oh, maybe a bear or a cat, which would be very uncommon in this area. Maybe cats, but bears down this far normally no. Quiet again. I could see the small road well in the moonlight that has risen. I never realized how much time was passing. That is quite a bit of time, actually, isn't it? In the pines where I'm in, my tree stand is very dark. The next thing I hear are the grounds immediately under me, like almost beside me, where the grounds maybe growls is what you meant to say. There was a smell that was a bit overwhelming, but just like a dead animal in the woods. I was like, there is a stinky animal climbing on my tree, and felt like I was going to be grabbed. I started moving a good bit, trying to get my gun pointed down, and lifting my feet. I've been shaken in the woods before, wild pigs and dogs. I was freaking scared. I heard a sound like you or I jumping to the ground, then quiet, but I could hear heavy breaths. I started yelling down, if you're a club member or trespassing, I don't care, just identify yourself, or gonna freaking start shooting shadows. Sorry, uncalled for, but I thought someone was trying to get at me in the tree stand. I never heard another sound, and the twang I'd caught a whiff of was gone. I sat for who knows how, thinking what just happened. Well, I tell you, this sucks. I put my gun on my back and started clicking down the tree slowly. No more than 2 or 3 clicks down the tree, I smelled it again. Heard a low groan. The sound as it was right in front of my face. No light, saw nothing, but it scared me so bad I stood up and jumped into the dark in the other direction. When I hit the ground and rolled around, I jumped and ran down the road that goes between the two pine sections and ran as hard as I could to the gravel road where I could see well in the moonlight. At this time, I remember my buddy was down at the bottom of the road in the small pines, where I put him in a big box stand, and I haven't seen his light or heard nothing from him. So I had to run down that road that I was just sitting on to get to the bottom by the rivers. 3 rivers down there to where he was at. Well, he was coming up the road very slow when I ran up on him. He said, "Doug, man, there's some weird shit going down. We need to go." We walked together slowly back up the gravel road. I heard someone walking on both sides of us, all the way to the gravel. I think he was hearing it too. We did not speak the whole walk, maybe 500 to 600 yards. For some reason, I didn't feel my gun was going to help. I had hollered earlier, threatening to shoot, and whomever this is, they weren't scared, and I couldn't see. When we got to the gravel road, nothing. The whole atmosphere changed, and it was almost 11 o'clock at night. Wow, dark at 6. Me and my buddy didn't talk much. We went back to camp, had some food, went to sleep, actually to bed. I could hear him rolling around all night, and I didn't sleep a wink. That's the end of the email. Hey, Doug. Thanks for the email, man. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. You didn't ask to join. It's like everybody else. I don't know why they do that. I haven't a clue. I mean, let's face it. A simple human being in the woods in the dark is like a duck in a barrel, right? It's like a fish in a bucket. It's so easy. I don't know why. What's going on? I have a funny feeling it's all due to they just want you to get away from where they are. And what's going on there? I don't know. Is it a portal? Probably. But what a shitty thing to do to somebody who's innocent, not threatening, and not doing anything to you. Hey, I'm going to go terrorize the shit out of this guy in the pitch black, and I'm going to terrorize him for a long walk out of the woods. And I don't think it's a game. If it was a game, if that was a game, I would bet you they'd have more fun and gratification terrorizing military personnel on exercises. Right? But then we're probably not going to hear from those guys at all. Although we have heard from a handful of them. But I got a funny feeling if it was a game they enjoyed to play with humans, they're going to go after the guys who are playing the game more often than not. Why go after just a regular guy sitting in a tree stand 10 feet off the ground doing nothing? Right? I wonder how many military guys are listening to this shaking their heads and they're too nervous to email in because they know very well that there isn't any secure emails anywhere. I'll bet you that's the case. Here's another one. About my son. It scared the hell out of me. Hi Steve, I've told my story several times, and each time I try to condense it as much as possible, but it's still long as hell. I wanted all my experiences out there, because I don't think I'm the only one that has tree structures 20 feet from the house. But that's another read. I've always talked to my son about Bigfoot and cryptids. He's 17 now, and would always shut me down. Oh, she's on her Bigfoot thing now. Me and his sister, went and picked him up in Washington State, and we drove back to Louisiana. On the 4-day journey home, we started talking about the house. My daughter says she hates being at my house because it's creepy at night. And she asked me to tell her some of the strange things that I've seen and heard. My son was in the back seat. I told Kaylee about acorns being thrown and, of course, the tree structures. And then I told her one night I was home alone for the weekend, and me and Diamond were just hanging out. We went into the kitchen and heard my name as clear as a bell. I looked down at Diamond, and she wasn't alarmed at all. She was waiting for me to get the snacks done. I told my daughter the voices was familiar and must if just went in my head, telepathy, because the more I thought about it, I really didn't hear it, but more like felt it. My son asked me if I ever figured out whose voice it was. I told him no, but I really felt they implanted a feeling of familiarity in my head. My son then asked me, so who was it? I told him I don't really know, but I feel there are 2 young male Sasquatch that bounce their powers off on me to see if it's working. He said, you know it was a Sasquatch. He said, I said, I think so. Hell, sorry, I'm just confused. I said, hell, I think so, but I don't know for sure. Then he brings up a story of being out at his friend's grandma's house. I'll take him during the holidays to see his friend. He moved away but comes back on holidays and I see his grandma. This was a year ago Christmas. There were 3 boys that went and stayed to hang out with him for a couple of nights. Boys being boys, they decided at midnight it was a great time to go play hide and seek. My son, as the other boys went and hid. Trevor said he wasn't feeling good and was scared and anxious at the same time, and then it happened. He heard his name called, and it too was a familiar voice, but it made him feel worse. He thought his buddies were calling him. We came out of his hiding place and asked if anyone called his name. They all said no. Trevor looked back in the woods and said, I ran as fast as I could back to the house. I really want you to take over from here because I want him to understand that he may have been chosen because of me, and he needed to be huge careful. Then the man come out at me from nowhere, and he can't go in the back acreage ever or over 2 miles ever, and that he needs to master his 6th sense. So please, Steve, feel free to lecture my son and make him think I'm not just an overprotective mom, and I need him to know that there is bad shit out there. I did ask him if he had a feeling of what it was. He said yes, a Wendigo. Wendigo, had to look it up. They had several pictures. He said none of the ones that looked part animal and part human, but the human-looking one with the long, jagged teeth and face of the devil. Anyways, after I calmed down and we got home, he started unpacking, and I proceeded outside to speak to my forest people and said, Hey, MFers, this ain't no game. You come after my son, I promise you, you will no longer have a safe place to live around here and raise your hoodlum children. I keep to myself, and I don't bother you much, and that I don't want to see you and you MFers. No, not to scare me, but you hurt my son. I'll never rest to make sure you don't have the same luxury relaxing home and no worries in watching your children grow. You will always be looking over your shoulder because it won't be just me effing up your life. I will somehow make it my mission to drive y'all back to your caves and never be seen again, and that is my promise. And if it ain't y'all scaring my son, well, I suggest you to take it up with them and become my son's guardian angel, because I will be coming for you and yours with more exploration, and I will be keeping all cryptics accountable for their actions and will make every day cryptic hunting season open. So if it's not you, well, I suggest you keep my son safe. I never asked to be put in walking distance from y'all, but I respect your right to probably meant to raise your children and have a good life. But the table has changed. Hide and watch, because I ain't playing. I'll let that sink in for a minute and ask if they had any questions. I did try and wait patiently, but Mama knew not to cross me. Now, especially with how much shit I take from her 2 Helens. Sorry, Steve. I can make a short story long. But please, show parents that joking with them about the subject won't keep them safe. It was a scary lesson. I don't want any other mom or dad to hear this story from their kids. Thank you, Steve. Please bring this home, and I hope I can make just one difference. I love what you do and appreciate the difference. In this time in our countries, we need hope, and you really make me, and I assume every other person, to do better. If we aren't on the front lines with you, I will be reloading guns, getting food prepared, healing the wounded, and praying for the ones that gave all. You're a good man now. Get riled up. Please don't use my name. Kids can be so cruel, and I hate to go whoop. And I hate to go whoop parents for their kids. LOL. Be safe. Alright. Now I got to go back to the beginning. See if I didn't read your name. Okay, good. Thanks for the email. I admire your protective quality. It's a good one. Love it. Although I wouldn't, I don't know what it would be like having to go toe-to-toe with these beings, right? It's not going to be good. Good for you being protective. And if your children are listening to this, well, I guess it's the same message I have for anybody, child or any family member. If you can't trust your family members, you can't trust anybody, you don't have anybody. Alright? You got to think to yourself. This goes for everybody. Who wakes up in the morning? Who? And says to themselves in their mind, I wonder what I'm going to make up today and drop on my children. I know. I'm going to tell them there's an 8 to 10 foot tall hairy guy out in the back 40 that likes to peek in the window at nighttime. Why am I going to do that? Because I'm bored as hell and it makes sense to. Said no one ever. Right? So there you go. If you want to be the loneliest person on the planet for the rest of your life, don't trust anybody. Simple. I wouldn't suggest it. Moving along, here we go. Another Sasquatch experience in PA. Hello, Steve. For starters, please just use my first name, Tommy. I'd rather not broadcast my last name online at this time. Second, I've been following your channel for several years, pretty much right after you started it. You're doing such an amazing job being an outlet for the people, and the people who email you are helping to carry the torch you've lit across the finish line. So everyone here should be well aware, if they're not already, that this place is one of the most honest, purest, and most sincere places on this dark web where we can find comfort and in some form. Let's keep it going. I'm sending in my experience not because I need to get it off my chest or need comfort or insight, not at all. As I'm submitting this to make people aware, especially people in my community, of not only just how real these beings are, but just how close they can be and likely are to us. Before I start, there was a video you posted a few months back where you exclaimed as to the number of Pennsylvania experiences you had been reading, and my take on thus. There are several larger metropolis areas in our state, such as Philadelphia, been there, Pittsburgh, been there, Harrisburg, been there, Scranton, drove through. And there used to be a lot of other space with the growth of folks being able to work from home since 2020. Some folks may refer to this as the scamdemic. I believe that a lot of folks who used to have to live/work in these areas are now able to get some breathing room, and so are moving out to less inhabited areas since they can work online. And so there's more people in normally sparse areas, thus they're encountering these beings more and more. The same as folks are encountering mountain lions more and more here. Oh yeah, we don't have those per our game commission, but I digress. Now on to my experience. My experience happened at the end of June / beginning of July in 2019. The location was the Governor Dick Forest, named after the former governor, which is located in Lebanon County. I live in a town called Lititz, pronounced Lititz, Lititz, which is only about a 20-25 minute drive away. To put things in perspective, the county I live in, Lancaster County, and which runs up against Lebanon County, is really almost a major hub for folks who live here but work in Philadelphia. Philly is only a little over an hour's drive away from here. Anyway, the girl I was dating at the time wanted to go for a hike there on Saturday morning, and so we went. A little background on me. I've grown up in and lived in our county all my life. Grew up with firearms and hunting and thought I knew all the critters that run around our woods. We arrived at the forest and walked up a trail. The main attraction here is the top of a hill, which the main trail runs off of. And there you'll find a tall watchtower, which you can climb up and at the top get a tri-county view. Truly beautiful. It was quiet, hot out, easily into the 90s. However, we made our way up the main trail towards the top. A couple of trails here which all pretty much coverage on the same spot. Some are foot traffic only. One is for horses, and there's another that is for mountain bikes. As we come up the straightaway towards the top, there's a decent sized tree that was bent over the trail and wedged into another tree on the opposite side of the trail. There were several folks gathered there in awe of it, and I had been interested in Sasquatch for some time and knew about tree bends. And this wasn't caused by the weight of snow. The bark, right where it was bent, was twisted off, and the branches of it were wedged into the branches of the trees on the opposite side of the trail. And it wasn't at the peak of the mountain, and wasn't facing the prevailing winds of the area to where they would have bent it in that direction, especially with the weight of the snow. I noted it in my mind and kept going to the top. It's usually what I do too. I just note shit. Keep on going. When we reached the top, we did what everyone else is doing. We entered the tall watchtower and climbed to the top. Now, I have PTSD from an event that I won't get into here. So when I described how climbing to the top of this involves climbing short ladders that are enclosed in a concrete tunnel, where when you get to the top you have to step off to the side and grab the next ladder, climb that to the next level and step off the opposite side, rinse and repeat. Well, you can see how those tight quarters and no escape out and the intense heat could trigger uneasy feelings. We got to the top. I took in the beautiful view, but quickly and then we descended back down to ground level. When we got to the bottom, there was an open area away from the structure, and from everybody else, which opened up to the top of a hollow. There's a map at the top which showed you where you were in the forest, and which trails were designated for what, and where they were located in relation to where you were at. So I walked over there with her to get a breather and have a cigarette. Just as I approached the crest of the ridge where I could look down into the hollow, literally, just as my vision broke the crest of that ridge, I heard what sounded like a very large man give a guttural rah, R-A-H. In that instant, my brain interpreted the sound as such, and that it came from behind a very thick patch of mountain laurel, which was about 25 yards from me to my northwest. I was facing north as on a compass just to set the image. Whether I was facing true north, I have no idea. However, my brain interpreted that the sound was coming from about 50 yards away and from a large man. How it came to that decision, I have no idea. But I have enough time in the woods to be able to gauge sounds. The issue was that the large man sounded as loud to me from that perceived distance as if he were 5 yards from me. And in looking at the map of that location previously, the nearest trail in that direction was the mountain bike trail, which was easily 400 plus yards in that direction. So it couldn't have been a human, as it was a deep hollow, and then some hills between their trail and where we were at, which were all choked with mountain laurel and briars. So, no human would have been there, and we didn't see any. Again, it came from a distance behind a thick patch of mountain laurel, which any outdoorsman will tell you is a natural wall. You're not seeing through it. At this same instant, I heard in my head and in my own voice, "That's as far as you go." Now, at the time, I interpreted that as my gut talking to me, but years later, after watching so many, if not all, of the videos on your channel, I've realized that my gut has never said a sentence like that. It's always just been a feeling that I've understood. So now I'm left with what I heard in my head was really mind speak. I didn't say a word to my girlfriend, and she didn't say a word to me. I only said, come on, let's go get some lunch. We headed out back down the main trail we came up. However, I positioned myself on the hollow side of the trail to our right, although I was unarmed. I've never felt more naked and vulnerable. She talked about some mundane stuff, which I occasionally responded to with a "I see" or although I wasn't really listening to her and was only focused on the hollow on our right from where that sound came. When we hit the last stretch of the trail where it sort of bottomed out and became flat again, I happened to look down and saw a stack of rocks / pebbles stacked neatly on the top edge of the trail on my side. And these rocks weren't there when we walked up, and they weren't native to that area. Rocks that you find in a typical forest trail have edges and such, but these rocks were completely smooth and looked like they came from a creek or a run. Indeed, I'm familiar with the surrounding lands. They are state game lands for hunting, and there are small runs which run in the hollows between the ridge tops. They're almost like a gift or recognition of me heading that entity's verbal warnings, and I interpreted them as such. When we were on a ride to our lunch destination, when I brought up what I knew we both heard, and my girlfriend admitted hearing what I heard, but had no idea what it was. I filled her in, and needless to say, she was skeptical, but in an uneasy way. Well, that's my story, and I know what I heard, the signs I saw, and I can tell anyone what I know it wasn't. I'll never go back there unarmed again. And this all happened in a readily accessible location, only about 20 minutes from Hershey Park and the chocolate factory of that name. I hope that this helps anyone with their experience, and I also hope it makes folks in my community aware of just what really is out there and how close it is to where we live. I also encourage you, Steve, to keep doing what you've been doing all these years. You've created a space which is a beacon of light in these dark times. And to all you listeners to this channel, it takes zero effort to be negative or focus on negative things. And while there's sometimes short-term payoffs for that, the long-term debt is immense. It only takes a little bit of effort to think and act positively. And the short-term payoffs for that are guaranteed, and there is zero long-term debt for that. Be safe, Steve, and everyone here. God bless Tommy. Tommy, well written. Totally lost my train of thought there. Said somebody come up and needed something from me. PA. Shit piles of sightings there. There's shit piles of sightings everywhere. That's all there is to it. Pennsylvania, why so many, I don't know. But the River Rock thing, that's something else, right? That's something else, because that is mentioned all the time. People are always saying that there was rocks either thrown at them or they found a stack of rocks that were obvious river rocks and not from there, not from anywhere around there. What does that mean? Right? What do you guys think that means? Where are these rocks coming from? Very odd, right? But I think that is a very large piece to people's puzzles, is the fact that these large stones, predominantly rounded off river rock, are showing up where there aren't any available for miles, and they're falling out of the sky when they're throwing them, or they're stacked on the ground in front of people on the trail. What does that tell you, right? I have a funny feeling that is directly linked with the frickin' tracks disappearing in the snow and stopping abruptly and them going somewhere else. Right? Now, how long does it take them to go from here to there? Is it like this? Can they reach in there and grab some frickin' river rocks from wherever that is, and it's right there through a window? Possibly. Sounds like it, right? They're not going to have a pile of river rocks stuck to their fur as they're traveling. They're not. Right? They have to be readily available at their feet. Now, how are they pulling that off when there's none available in the immediate area where the rocks are landing, being stacked? That's telling us something. I think that's telling us something big when it comes to this mystery of exactly what they can do and what they do all the time, meaning coming and going. Right? The big question for me is how far is that distance from them to come and go? Is it just right there, through that hole right there, through that frame right there? Can they reach in and bring something back and throw it at you, stack it up? Because they don't have a backpack. They don't have Velcro rocks stuck to their frickin' waistband, right? But that's something to take note of, everyone. That's something you really need to think about and look into. What is up with these river rocks showing up where there aren't any for miles? What's up with that one? Interesting. Okay. Thanks again for emailing, man. Email again. You got something that's going to help somebody out? Email it. Email it in. Glowing orange orb sighting. Good quality video evidence attached. Steve, first of all, I want to thank you for your bold, no-nonsense demeanor and your willingness to share the untold and dismissed stories of the people. You can use my first name if you want. I observed the glowing orange orb in the attached video back in 2018 while standing outside my apartment next to my vehicle. The location is just outside Paducah, Kentucky, USA. It was very slow moving. It was also gliding at a very low altitude just above the tree line, which I estimate to be 75 to 100 feet up. The video clearly shows all of this. I just happened to notice it hovering above me, and almost immediately I began filming. I'm glad that I had the presence of mind to pull my phone out and hit record so that I can share the irrefutable evidence of its existence. The sight itself was strange to be sure, but I cannot recall any distinct feelings or emotions this orb imputed to me. The only thing I remember is thinking that I better film it or no one will believe me. I don't know what it was or what it means, but I have always believed that this material world is like an output, vis-a-vis this display monitor of a computer. To say that the display stands on its own and there is no hardware which processes and feeds information to the display does not seem feasible and isn't symmetrical with what we observe within this world. An output always entails an input, and I believe we directly experience the output but do not have full knowledge of the hardware of reality. Yet, we are taught in materialist government indoctrination camps, what we are taught in materialist government indoctrination camps leads us to conclude that this is all there is, and that the extent of human knowledge is as selected, edited, and curated by global authoritarian scumbags, represents the totality of knowledge itself, and that if it is not acknowledged by establishment, science, then it de facto doesn't exist. That is what far too many believe. Absolutely agree 110%. This is ignorance, arrogance, and the antithesis of intellectual integrity. This deadly combination also completely stifles honest investigation and interdicts genuine curiosity. I could rant all day, but I will not. Instead, I want to thank you for what you're doing. I'm a Christian and I believe firmly in Jesus Christ. He promises that everything concealed will someday be revealed. I have no doubts that all the knowledge hidden will eventually come to light. Thank you for doing your part, and I have no doubt that you're inspiring many others to courageously do the same. Okay, man. I always forget. You can use my first name, okay? Because I read the full name at the bottom, and then I stop and go, I'll have to read this. Clayton, appreciate you, man. I agree with you 110%. We're on the exact same page, okay? When it comes to the part about the knowledge, the indoctrination part, for me, my ride, I've proven that to myself very easily. It doesn't take long, okay? And how I prove that to myself is 100% due to all of you sharing your knowledge with me. It all points to us being misled, lied to you from the beginning and controlled. And if you don't think you're living in a controlled world right now, you better shake your head. Rattle your cage. Rattle your cage and try to get out of the damn thing, because it sucks being in that cage. And it's frustrating once you get out, too. It's a little scary. But, oh well. Suck it up and move forward. Alright, I could rant too. We probably rant the same. What do we got? Alright. I don't know what this is about, but we're going to read it. It's just titled Second Email. Hi Steve, you probably realize that there are copycats of your site out there. I wrote an account over a year ago to you that was hijacked by one of those sites. They made it look a lot like yours. They replied with an email demanding me to give them more information in detail. I just had a feeling this was fake and never got back to them. What? No shit. I've had a lot of intrusion into my life with stuff like this. You can believe there is some entity within the government who is very interested in UFOs. I've had an agent from DOD with all kinds of ID come to my door and question me. My child was nearly kidnapped from my driveway. 2 of the regulars who regularly attend our monthly seminars were murdered. Suicides by hanging themselves off his balcony, and the other accidentally being shot at a public park bathroom. Verified phone taps, and on and on. But as I continue listening to your site, even though you profess disinterest in UFOs, I'll try once more. Why? This is directly concerning Bigfoot and gives great credibility to the connection. I live in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and there's quite a bit of UFO sightings and experiences going on there. Holloman, AFB, the Trinity site, secret stuff. After we left and moved to Oregon, I decided to speak out about UFOs and those topics that don't have answers yet. A professor, emeritus in atmospheric science, 2 vice presidents, and a famous computer company, and I started a monthly seminar. We brought in speakers on many topics over the 9+ years. I directed the group. It grew very quickly, from our front rooms to auditoriums at community colleges that held our 500+ attendees. Topics included UFOs, ghosts, miracles, contactees, and abductees, basically. We brought in speakers who were well known in their fields and mostly authors. Folks came from all over the Northwest, including Seattle, Northern California, and Idaho, and of course Oregon. Many were private pilots who would fly in for the seminars. I got certified in using the community access equipment at that college and videotaped every seminar. As a retirement, it was a requirement that the finished tape be shown on their channel. This was all free and the best advertising I could have paid for. By the way, it wasn't a money-making venture. We asked for a donation of $2, but raised it after having to move to larger quarters to $3. Many didn't pay, but would come back every month. I put a lot of dollars into that group. I guess because I felt it was very important to allow the truth out there in the open. During that time, I did some forensic artwork for some of the sheriff's departments. It was interesting work, but the most interesting was when I was called by a gentleman who asked me to accompany him and 2 other men who belonged to a very large national UFO group. We got together, drove up to Tillamook, Oregon. They made it clear that I was to do the artwork and could not ask questions beyond the art. There's a family of 5 who owned a dairy farm and who had seen UFOs and other things. I was excited to be invited with this particular group of ufologists. They were all well known to the UFO community. 2 had written popular books on the various parts that the topic includes. I sat and listened to the question and answer conversation, but was allowed to ask simple, color, line-type art questions. There was a father, a mother, a teen son, preteen daughter, and a 4-year-old daughter. They were very gracious to us, very honest and forthright. I was amazed as the mother explained that the little girl had come in from the back porch and said, "Come here." When they went back there was a silver UFO hovering about 4 feet off the ground. It appeared to be 30 feet wide and shaped in the normal UFO shape. As they stood there with the little girl, a door simply appeared on the side facing them, and in the door was a man. They described him as blonde and blue-eyed, probably taller than most other men. He wore a baby blue full-body suit from his clean-shaven chin to his toes. I don't remember if they said anything about an insignia. He talked to them in their heads. As they talked, a rounded window appeared on the left side of the UFO, and in it, apparently a rounded console, was a Bigfoot with his hands resting on what appeared to be levers and buttons. It's definitely sounding out there for your average listener, isn't it? Really, I never heard of that connection prior to this, and I know I stopped and took in the conversation with much more interest because this was at the upper end of weird, even for the topic UFOs. But these people meant what they said. They were quiet, gentle dairy farmers who had no reason to lie or come up with a story like this. They didn't want dollars or to be interviewed by the media. But here they were explaining what they saw and experienced, and they were corroborating and adding to each other's accounts. I had many questions I couldn't ask, by agreement, except I do remember that the little girl stood behind my chair watching me draw the Bigfoot and saying that he had red hair, not the plain brown as I had drawn. Also that he had a bigger nose, which the rest of the family said she meant wider. When I changed this by adding a reddish-orange color to the brown, she was very happy, as well as were the others there. It was amazing. It was somewhat frightening. I think the men were a little shocked because they seemed to expect something very different. The people weren't liars or wanting anything but to tell what happened. There was more to their story, with mostly having to do with the Bigfoot, but this has gotten rather long for you, your short programs. Just know that this was not the only time the family had seen and experienced the Bigfoot. It was incredible. I have the original drawings and have sent copies to several individuals and UFO groups. If this is not too far out for you, I will send some copies to you. Thanks for your many hours of work and skill in putting your programs together. They are so interesting and informative. As advice, try to keep the administrative part close to you. Letting other help in can be an easy way to ruin a group like yours. I know it's a lot more work to pull it all together yourself, but nobody will make it like your vision, and it is your vision. Worst case scenario, it could get dangerous if it gets folks in there who are not doing it for the love of it. I know. I've been out of the UFO business for years and have no intentions on becoming involved again, but this experience should be shared so that it adds credence to other accounts showing the Bigfoot/UFO connection. Like your Sean Little's account of the UFO that zipped above him when he was on a lobster boat, that he saw a Bigfoot in it. He wasn't kidding or making that up. Folks need to know that life is even weirder than they thought. As you would probably say, get over it, you pussies, or something to that effect. Thanks for letting me give your listeners another viewpoint. Did you say to use your name? Here I gotta go to the beginning again. That's deep. Alright, I'm guessing it's okay. I didn't read, do not read my name. Jennifer Brown Jacobs, founder and past director of Portland UFO Group, PUFOG. Alright, appreciate the email, big time. And being brave to share that one, because you know as well as I do, how many people are going to be asking you what kind of weed you smoke, right? And that's sadly the reaction we get always from a big percentage of our population. I wonder how many other people have seen what you just described. And if you have, don't be scared. It's a safe place to share it, and I encourage you to share it. Okay? If not here, somewhere similar, just share it and get people talking about it. If that is what you truly, honestly saw, it needs to be spoken about loudly, with confidence. Okay? It has to be. I don't give a shit how crazy it sounds. If you saw something that is absolutely mind-boggling, mind-blowing, you really saw it, you need to speak out loud about it and not be scared. All right? I don't know how I can encourage people to speak with confidence and not be scared. I don't know how I can change my delivery. I don't know. All I can do is look you square in the eye and try to give you confidence to not be scared of human beings. Quit being scared of people. All right? Look what I'm doing. Look what I am doing. Right? Look at the social groups that I come from. A-type egomania, hunting, big game hunting and angling. Right? I mean, look at the characters in those groups that would love to gobble me up and spit me out with ridicule. Maybe they did try it years ago, but they don't do it anymore. Nobody does anymore, right? And yesterday's reading of the comment section for me was an eye opener. There's 1,500 comments yesterday. I tried my best to read it as much as I can and hit the old heart button to let you know I did. And it must have been 99% positive comments in the comment section below. There's no belittling, no demeaning. There's a few miserable bastards that I saw, and I just went on their profiles and blocked them forever. Done. See ya. Too easy, right? But it was overwhelming just how many people are positive and welcoming to talk about anything here, and you help people get it off their chest, support them, and offer up a safe place. And that's what this is. But very, very, very important that no matter how insane it sounds, if you know what you saw, you have to speak out loud about it. All right? You have to. So, on that note, I'm going to carry on. I got a bunch of stuff I got to get going, get done. Maybe I might get a handful of emails out again before I leave. Maybe I won't. We'll see. And hopefully I could possibly start doing my GoPro thing in the boat where I can actually edit them from my phone and get them out, because I just might be out there a lot this month, because we put it out there that there are going to be days available for August for sport fishing with me, and those emails I think will be replied to today, starting with the first come first served basis, and we'll take it from there. Anyway, my brain's starting to reel. I gotta go. I'll be back, and I have to go back. Hopefully I did. Obviously you would have seen it by now. I gotta find the video of the orbs in this email. I can't forget to do that. So, be safe. Talk shortly.